everybody. It's great to see you. It's great to hear me on Sideline Power, and thank you for our sponsorship of Sideline Power and being here for another Ballin with Bill here. The fine gentleman, very good man, had a ton of success, been very successful at Wahoo. Had a state championship last year. A great team to watch. Very powerful football. I mean, they between the tackles like I was taught when I was growing up. So they call that old style, but I enjoy the heck out of it. But let's welcome Coach Fox here from Wahoo, Nebraska. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. First question I always like to ask my guys is, how did you get started in football? Where'd you play? And so where'd all your motivation come from?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a small town in south central Nebraska, industrial Nebraska. Very small community. I mean, it was less than 1,000 people when I was there. We played C2 football at that time. We were 11-man. But that's kind of where I played all sports. Played football in the fall and did basketball in the winter, and then the spring we did track, and the summer played baseball. And I just always enjoyed sports, enjoyed the competitive nature of it, and that's kind of what all my buddies and friends did, is we just played, and it kind of just grew with me. I had a great coach my junior and senior year. Dave Marachek is his name, and he came as his first job. Yeah, it was his first job out of college. He graduated from UNK. It might have been Kearney State at that time. I'm going to date myself a little bit.
That's right. I know it was Kearney State.
But Dave was a great motivator. He was a guy that just really motivated kids. He cared about kids, and we weren't a very strong program at all. My freshman and sophomore year, we struggled quite a bit, and by our senior year, we made the playoffs. I think it might have been the first time in school history, or maybe just the second time in school history. But I mean, we just never had any success. So made the playoffs, and that was kind of a real exciting deal for us. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. I always thought, what Coach Marachek gets to do is kind of cool. I'd really love to do that sometimes. So went to college, went to Midland, played some football for a couple of years, figured out that I wasn't very good. And
who'd you play for at Midland?
Coach Watchorn was there.
Oh my goodness!
And
that's what Coach Watchorn used to be at UNO.
Yeah.
And when he went to be the head coach of Midland, that's when my father came in as an assistant for Al Caniglia. So I'm dating myself.
Yeah. But was out Coach Watchorn, talking
man.
about old school.
Yeah. Good
old school guy, and we're Wishbone, and I kind of went to Midland. I thought it was a good fit for me, small school and that, but I just realized I probably wasn't as good of a football player as what maybe I thought I was, but it was a great experience to say the least. And got a chance to take theory of football class, and it didn't work in my schedule quite right. So then Coach Watchorn just retired, and it was Coach Snyder at that time, and Steve was great and he was like, just check around some local high schools and see if they need any help. Sometimes you can catch on and be a volunteer coach or whatever. And so I checked around. I just started calling schools, and I got a hold of Coach Larry Martin he was at Fremont Bergen at the time. And
that's right.
And I got a chance to coach there. And it was my junior year in college, and I knew nothing about really coaching other than I just had some good influences in my career as playing, and got a chance to do it there. And then it was even, Coach Martin's a great motivator.
Oh, he is.
Yes,
he is.
He's, just one of those things. It was just another great experience. And at that point, I kind of knew this is really what I want to do. So, got through the student teaching experience, student taught then at Fremont Bergen, coached there for 2 years, had a great experience there at Bergen. It was interesting seeing the kind of the parochial side of things, seeing in that side of it. But it was a great experience. And, we had some successful runs there. I had 2 runs into the quarterfinals, and just learned a ton about the game. But the biggest thing I got to do there was I went with Coach Martin on a lot of clinics and things like that, and got a network. So I started, seeing guys at clinics, coaches, Gary Pitts and Jim Pitts, and, hung out with those guys a little bit, and Coach Beller up at Norfolk Catholic. So I got a chance to really meet coaches, Coach Mimic, and network with some people, and that's really what helped me out, especially getting my first head coaching job there at Wahoo. But getting ahead of myself a little bit. Out of college then, went to Gibbon, coached out at Gibbon for 3 years, was a D coordinator out there, coach with Scott Rasmussen, and he was a great influence in the sense that he was really good with kids. He treated people right, and to this day, I still, reflect back to what, how he did things and that, and we weren't super successful out there. We were, I think, might have been 0-8 my first year, and then we went 4-4, and then we made the playoffs our third year there, and that was a really exciting time for the school, and it was just another good experience. And sometimes you got to have some hard times to really draw from, and you know, I tried to learn from that as well. Then I got the opportunity to go to Papio and went to Papillion La Vista.
Were you there, Gene?
And I was there with Coach Sir.
Yeah,
So I had another great
coaches, yeah.
had another great influence there, and Coach Sir, I was there for 4 years.
Him
and
and
I learned
Coach
more
Petito got
football.
along real well.
Yep. We had some battles.
You did.
We had some battles. I think we had I can't remember the score of the game, but I think both teams ran 80, 90 plays of offense, and I think there was less than 10 points between us. I mean, it was just nobody could move the ball as a defensive struggle. But you know, I had some great years there. Learned a ton about the game.
He does. He's
learned
a great
ton about
teacher.
the game, but that enabled me then to get myself in a position where I could be a head coach, and got an opportunity to go to Wahoo back in 2002.
You've been there since 2002.
Yeah, so I've been there a while, and every time I look across the sideline at a coach that we're going against, I'm like, man, I am an old man. These guys are all pretty much a lot younger than me, and I feel like I'm the old guy on the block.
Yeah,
You know?
you do a heck of a job.
Yeah.
So when you came to Wahoo, how did you install your, what do you want to say, your pedigree? How you wanted to, how do you want
The
to
culture,
teach
the
culture,
beliefs,
the whole
yeah.
thing? What
You know,
because you had a lot of different backgrounds with Barry
Yeah.
Martin and Gene, and
Yeah,
different
it was,
guys you mentioned. So what'd you do to?
You know, it
install
took some
yours?
time. I mean, it took us 18 years to get ourselves in a championship game and win one. So, like I tell people, I'm a slow learner, I guess, with that. But
You
no,
had a lot
it
of
took
success, Coach.
it took some time. It took some time. The biggest thing that I can say is, you know, we were very, very consistent. We've been consistent over a period of time. I feel like we've been fairly competitive. I think most teams that play us know that we're going to be physical.
Yeah, you are.
We're going to be a physical team. But you know, we hold our kids accountable, and our kids know that we're going to be consistent with them. We're going to be fair. We're going to hold them accountable, and we want to play a physical nature. And I just think, you know, we don't change a lot. You know, we try. I mean, we're going to fit our offensive schemes and defensive schemes to fit our personnel and fit our talents that we have. I mean, I don't want to put a square peg in a round hole. You know, last year we were really good at running the ball because that's what we were really
did a
good
nice
at.
job at coming off the ball.
We would have been silly to try to throw it 30 times a game because that's not what we were built to do.
Right.
And you know, so you know, we try to have an offensive system, a defensive system that allows us the flexibility to really, you know, play off the talents that our kids have. But you know, like I said, our kids just know they're going to be held accountable. We're very, very consistent with them. Like I said, I don't try to just change things on a whim. I try not to do that. I think we got a pretty good plan in place, and we try to follow that as much as possible. Not that we're perfect. We're far from that, and we can continually get better. And we're always going to clinics and looking at things and listening to people. You know, there's tons of stuff on the internet now, whether YouTube videos or Twitter's a great resource, and you can just find a ton of information out there that you can learn from all these other programs that do things the right way. But you know, that's kind of what, I guess, I don't know, we're a lot of outside influences to make it work.
Yeah, well, you had some good. I mean, in my personal opinion, Larry and Gene are two of my favorite people, and so you had some good teachers there on how to build a program, because both of those two, you know, you look what he did at Fremont Bergen and then Omaha North, of course, and Coach Sir, what he did at his places, then also Papillion. So I mean, you had great teachers there on how to build a program.
Absolutely.
And both good people, good men.
Absolutely. So. No, they got a few more championships than we got, so we got some work to do.
Coach, I've watched you play a few years. You guys are as tough as I've seen a team play. So, you know, I mean, tell me about your offense. I mean, because I've got to watch you last year against Aurora,
right?
And they're a good team too. But you guys went out and just you manhandled.
Yeah. Now Aurora suffered some great losses with graduation. I mean, so they were down, and they had 2 years ago one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Oh,
I've been coaching a while, you know, 25 years now, and they had one of the best ones I've seen. But last year, that we knew that was a game that we were going to need to play really well. It was going to be one of those games early in the season. We like to have tough games so you can kind of measure yourself, see what you need to get better at, and see what you're really kind of where your strengths might be against good competition. What are your things you need to work on, your weaknesses? But that was a fun one. We played physical. We controlled the ball. We controlled the clock in the second half. Just kind of kept the ball away from them, and just had really, really long drives.
You did,
and pounded the rock. And after that game, we had a pretty good feeling about, you know, if we can continue to follow that recipe, if we can stay healthy. Obviously, it's a long season. Stay healthy. We thought we could be in the mix at the end, and it just happened to work out for us that way. But
I mean, once you got on a roll, I mean, you guys were tough as nails.
Yeah, we had incredible depth. We had, you know, we probably had about 12 linemen that could have played for us on any down. You know, and that's something that
you don't
I've never
get all
had
the time.
before, and we you know, we just don't have that depth this year. and I don't know if we'll ever have it again. It was just incredible. You know, we could roll in 2 guards and roll in 2 tackles, and it wasn't much drop off. You know, we had a center that could swing in too, and it was crazy the amount of depth that we had up front. And everybody knows football is a game where it's won in the trenches, and if you got good guys in the trenches, then you're going to have a chance to win the game, and that's what we had last year. And obviously, had some good skill around it. I mean, I'm not going to slide any of those guys, but no, it was just a good squad. And it was a special group. That senior group had a lot of, they played for each other. They held each other accountable. They did some really good things. They're great teammates, and they were just a real special group that way. But they had a lot of snaps. I mean, we had a small senior group ahead of them, so they played a lot as juniors. Some of them were on the field quite a bit as sophomores, and we had deep playoff runs both those years. So I mean, they got a great deal of experience in some high pressure games, and it just, like I said, it really paid off last year for us.
Yeah. Well, just go ahead on your base offensive philosophy. What is it? What do you? I mean, because I know you adjust it. I know you do. But what is your base when you go in and start looking, and what do you try to do?
You know, we're like, it's a cliche. It 100% is. We're going to not put a square peg in a round hole. I mean, you go back to 2005, we were not very good, but we had a quarterback that could sling it. We had tall receivers, and our line was average at best. We just weren't very good up front. I didn't feel like we could down block very well. We couldn't combo block very well, so we tried to sling it. We didn't have a tight end with his head in the deck.
I remember that year.
And we would throw it all over the place. And you know, so like I said, that my offensive philosophy is kind of just going to be whatever our strengths are going to be.
How do you adjust it?
And
from going from a power running game like you were last year to a,
like,
let's say like what you did when you slang it. Like
you know, we got it. Like I said, we got an offensive, I don't know what you want to call it, a menu or whatever, a system that we can kind of just select from. We don't run everything off there any one given year, but there's enough on there that we can kind of, you know, shift our focus to maybe this part of the game. You know, like if we get a quarterback that we feel like we can run it with a quarterback, we'll have more read game in there with whether it's veer or read option, or, you know, there's a ton of stuff you can do now off of some of the sweep
RPOs
stuff,
and all
the
that.
RPOs, all those things, and just anything we could do to stress the defense. Probably the one thing that's been consistent over time is we're going to run a ton of formations.
Yeah, I know.
In
that
our
night
openers,
you did that.
In our openers, we're going to run, you know, there's probably going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 different formations that we're going to throw at a defense. We want to see how they're going to line. We want to kind of get an idea of maybe where we're going to get an advantage, what weaknesses we can maybe expose that way. And plus, I remember the days of being a defensive coordinator at Papio and drawing those stupid play cards. And when you played a team, like, well, at that time,
Gene
West
ran
Side,
a lot of formation.
and Gene did too. But you had to draw those cards and try to get your defense prepared to how to line up and make all their checks and coverage of calls and all those things. And how are you going to adjust your blitzes and your stunts to all those freaking formations?
Yeah.
So I was like, this is something I'm definitely going to carry with me when I get into offense and get a chance to call an offense. So we try to do that. Like into the state final game, we carried 22 formations in there. We didn't run all 22 because we found a few that we could lean on and get some yards.
Yeah.
But you know, we feel like we want to be as multiple that way as possible. Run plays, we might have 5, 6, 7, 8 things we're going to do there. We might have maybe 6 or 7 passing concepts. So it's fairly simple from our kids' standpoint and what they have to truly learn. Now there's a bunch of formations they're going to have to learn and where to line up, but we rep the heck out of it. And again, over the course of the season, they get better at it. And you know, it's kind of probably, if we're talking offensive philosophy, it's probably the biggest thing is try to be as multiple as possible. With what we're going to try to present a defense.
Okay, I've noticed that, and I remember in 2005 because that's when I was at Dan and stuff. Yeah. So I remember you slinging the heck out of it.
We tried.
You did.
Sometimes it wasn't pretty.
No, in the grass it gets tough sometimes. The weather we have. So now, I always like to ask coaches, especially this year was a weird year, but what do you try to do off season wise to prepare them for what you do? And because I mean, you are a very strong, I think, a very physical team. So what do you do in your off season to help you get there?
Yeah, the biggest thing is for us. I mean, I know a lot of teams, they get June rolling and they're already got the pads on, or they're going to camps and they're doing a ton of football stuff. We do literally 5 days of football in the summer. There's 5 days in the summer where the kids are doing football activities, and I'm not exaggerating this at all. We'll have a 4-day team camp. We'll have a 1-day camp. We didn't get to do it this year, but we go up to Columbus and do a 1-day morning camp, and Midland runs that thing, and we get some competitive stuff with some other schools that are there. But that is it. I don't want the kids to be super tired when they come into the season. I want them eager as heck. I want them to be ready to go. So we don't do a lot of football stuff. I try to keep it as low-key as possible that way. Now, we do want to spend a fair amount of time lifting and conditioning. And that's where our main focus is. We want to get our bodies prepared for what we hope is a long season.
Right.
Is what we hope. And so we're going to try to get them in the weight room 3-4 days a week. This summer it was only 3 days a week because of the constraints we had with the COVID stuff. But we felt like it was productive. We had a fair amount of kids that made the 90% attendance.
Did you
I don't
really?
want to say,
That's very
I don't
good.
want to say requirement, but that was our recommendation, I guess. And we had a fair amount that made that. And that's, last year, I think going into that 2019 season, we had almost 95% of our kids with perfect attendance. So we had a high level of buy-in. Now, we were also afforded the flexibility because they could go 4 days a week, and if you missed on a Wednesday, you can get in there on a Thursday and Friday. This summer, you didn't have any flexibility because we only had certain times where kids could lift. So if they missed their session because of any conflict, then they could never make it up. So we were
So they
hamstrung
had
a
to be
little bit
hamstrung,
there with
yeah.
that. But we want our kids lifting, and we try to get our bodies ready that way. And then we spend the last 2 weeks in July running and doing a lot of conditioning. And we're probably maybe a little more old school there because we're going to do not the short, quick burst runs, but we're going to do some of the longer runs. We're going to get the cardiovascular system taxed. We want them to be tired. We want them to feel what that's like, and then we want to throw more at them so they can kind of figure out what adversity is and how that feels. We had a great hill on our practice field that's 40 yards long, and we use the heck out of that. And
That's good training.
And so, we do a lot of those types of things in the summer to get ourselves ready. But like I said, I want the kids hungry when they get there in August. The last thing I want is I don't want them to be tired of playing football. And I feel like it's been a good recipe for us. The last 6-7 years, we've been decent with getting deep runs in the playoffs, and I've never had a kid tell me at the end of the year they were sick of football. They all felt like they wanted to play more, and they couldn't wait for the next season. So I think we're doing some things right there.
There you are. What are your core lifts?
The core lifts we're gonna everybody does bench, which I think that's still the most worthless lift in terms of what you do.
I think the incline, to be honest with you, is better for you than
yes,
body.
absolutely. And my kids look at me weird when I tell them the incline's a more telling lift. The angle at which you're pushing the weight is
Right,
more like
because
what
that's
you're
more
gonna
like what you
block.
can do in the field.
Absolutely. So the bench and the incline, and then we do the hang clean, and we'll let kids power clean if they feel more comfortable power cleaning for their max. But a clean, and then obviously the squat. There's the 4 core lifts that we do. Now we'll cycle in some deadlifts. We'll cycle in some front squats, and we've got we were a little more limited this year because of the time constraints we had and that. But we'll do some banded benches and some banded squats as well with some things. So Coach Robert Berry does our strength and conditioning program right now. He played football down at the university, and he's got a ton of great ideas that he's pulled from Dobson down there when he played down there. And then he's got a buddy that's a strength coach out at Hastings College, and so he's got a wealth of knowledge, and he puts together the program for us. There does a lot of mixing in different auxiliaries and stuff, a lot of one-legged things, a lot of ground-based stuff as well.
That's good for your balance.
And the other thing that gives us, I feel, an advantage is we have an athletic trainer in-house, and she's there full-time for us.
Even during the summer?
And during the summer, she was
That's a
there.
big deal.
But, she can watch the kids as well with all our jumps. So we do our plyometrics and stuff and help the kids, making sure their knees are in the right spot, making sure that, they're landing in a safe position. And then see if there's any deficiencies. If there's deficiencies in the glutes or anything like that, the hamstrings, we can strengthen those things and work on those. And that is great in terms of injury prevention on the other side. But, Rachel Hall is our trainer, and she does a phenomenal job with helping out. And she'll also give us an injury report at the end of this season and say, hey, I saw these injuries here. We need to do maybe X, Y, and Z to try to strengthen those body parts.
That's
so
good.
if we feel like we had one year, we had it seemed like a higher amount of hand and wrist injuries. So we worked more on grip and those things than the next off season. And we saw those things then go away. So, we feel like those are all things that we try to stay ahead of the curve on some of those things. And like I said, no, we're not perfect. We don't have all the answers, but we feel like we got a lot of good things going in the weight room, and it's helped us out tremendously.
Well, I think so. Watching you guys play, I think you're very physical and very strong, and in very good condition too.
Yeah.
Well, now
we got some work to do there yet this year, but we try.
Well, I'm sure this year it had to be a little tougher this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the constraints you guys were all put under.
Yeah, we've got like I said, we got some work to do there, but we'll get there.
I know
we'll
we
get
will.
there.
So tell me now, since you were D coordinator, what is your defensive philosophy as a head coach now?
You know, running a 4-3 is what we did, and at Papio, and we're still probably, you know, like I said on offense, we don't want to put a square peg in round holes. Defensively, we're going to be 4-3 most of the time, but we're going to be multiple in that, in terms of we're going to give 50 fronts, we're going to give 60 fronts, we're going to give unders and over fronts, and we've even got a 30 front out of it that we had to put in because we started running the last 5 years all these teams that throw the ball all over the place, and you know, you get these teams like Aurora or Kearney Catholic that just sling it all over the place, so you got to have a 30 front in there. You know, Platteview back in 2012 kind of forced us into that when they were running all the, or actually it was 2011. They're running all that jet sweep, and so we kind of put in a 30 front for that. But we're going to be as multiple as we can, and again, we want to try to give teams a difficult time to prepare for all that. And you know, I know, you know, we had a lot of different fronts going against Pearson that state final game, and I know it caused them some problems. I know Coach Bramer does a great job being very thorough with blocking schemes and knowing his offensive line, knowing exactly. But we were there were some times we were just messed up in our lineups, but it didn't matter. And our kids know that. You can line up wrong, just got to play hard. A lot of times that effort will take care of any misalignment. But you know, we don't know where we're lining up. I'm sure the offense doesn't know where we're lining up either. So we had some mistakes there. But
No, they like,
you know,
hey, get over here.
yeah. And I mean, there was a time we had a 9 technique and we had a shade on his side with a freaking tight end, but we had a defensive end that played with his hair on fire, and he erased all the gaps and he took on a puller. But you know, so we try to be multiple. That's the biggest thing. We really like to have 2 high safeties. The purpose of that is to kind of take care of any long runs. You always have angles if you have a 2 high safety.
Yeah, you do. That's true.
Shell. So we try to keep that, and you know, we've managed to kind of take our sandbacker and flex them out a little bit more. So there's sometimes some teams are wondering they're not 4-3, they're more 4-2, and it might look that way with just a 6-man box from time to time, depending on the formation. But again, we want to be multiple, we want to be flexible. But again, our staff has been together for a while, and we all know the 4-3 pretty well, and we know our positions, and our kids fully know. And it was kind of interesting getting back into camp this year. I mean, it was day 2, and our kids picked up the calls. I mean, it was just like we were back in October and November.
That's
I
good.
mean, they were making the adjustments to formations.
That's something you always worry about.
Absolutely, especially when you graduated a senior class of 16. So we had, you know, we got to find 8 returning starters on defense and 9 on offense. So I mean, we got to get this thing, or 8 on offense and 9 on defense, I guess it was.
Okay.
We got to get it figured out. But our kids, our young kids, picked it up pretty quick. And like I said, the recall from last year was great. So yeah, defensively, like I said, 4-3, be aggressive. Coach Iverson calls our defense. Jason Iverson does a great job.
You could call
He does a tremendous job. He does a great job with. You know, I'm more of a guy that has a script and I got to follow a script, and I like it. But he is a guy that can kind of just go on a whim. He gets a great feel for the game and where they're trying to attack, and then he tries to counter that with a lot of stunning and blitzing. But we're going to be super aggressive, and high school kids a lot of times they struggle with that. And if we can put that pressure on them, and then all of a sudden cause a little bit of panic and create some chaos, then we usually feel that's a pretty good thing for our defense.
Gotcha. You know, the thing I noticed is when I watched last year's, you guys ran the ball really well. I mean, a lot of gang tackling. So how do you teach that? I mean, because that's something being an ex-coach I always worried about is
Pursuit.
because you want the defense to go, but you want to build pursuit, good angles, and all that stuff. And it seemed like your team did that very well last year.
Right, and pursuit is one of the cores to a good defense. You got to have, and we tell guys how far away you are from the ball when the whistle blows at the end of a play will tell you how interested you are in playing defense. If you're farther than 10 yards from the ball, you must not be very interested. You better get your butt moving.
Good point.
And you better get to the ball, and you better be there with a bad mood, bad intentions, or whatever. And you know, so we try to get as many kids to the ball. So we work a pursuit drill at least once a week, and that usually is an opener for our defensive segment of practice. And it's just a straight sideline pursuit. You get a rabbit or a running back to run out there and run, and everybody's got to take their angles, and they got to understand. You know, defense is a puzzle. It's always a puzzle. You got to understand your fit. You know, you can't follow your teammate. No. If you follow your teammate, your angle's wrong. So you got to adjust your angle accordingly.
And that's something we fought with in college,
yeah,
too, Coach.
You got to get so when they end up on the sideline, you should get a nice string of players.
Right.
And then everybody should have their pursuit angle accordingly. And that's one thing we do. Another thing that we did, and we developed this back in, it might have been 2007 or 8, and we call it a Corral Drill. And it's back when we played Boys Town. Of course, their field is the Corral. And they're always so darn fast, and we struggled a few years, matching their speed. So we talked about just running it's like an outside fit drill or an outside run drill, but we just take our linebackers and our back four, and we might integrate DNs with it if we feel like we need to, but usually it's just those back guys, and we put some offensive guys over there, some outside receivers and so forth. Maybe put a back and maybe a tight end, and we got to work getting off blocks and then getting to the ball. Everybody's got to get their fit into the puzzle, and the corners got to understand how they fit and trying to push it all back inside, and everybody's got to be scraping to the ball, taking the right angle, and we spend a fair amount of time on that. The beauty of,
because that's the hardest thing to teach,
Yeah.
I think, is angles.
absolutely. So we get those fits going, and we did the corral drill in camp, but we're not hitting, we're just getting to where we need to be, and we're tagging off. And the beauty of the pursuit drill and the corral drill is we can do those and there's zero impact
Right.
with the ball carrier and a tackler. So I mean, in all this day and age of new defensive, you can't be live all the time, you can't be tackling all the time, so you got your different segments of practice. This, we're just tagging off, we're just pursuing to the ball and tagging off. Now there's a little bit of contact with the hit and the shed, but it's not like everybody's going 100% on that. But we're understanding how to get to those. You can do it in just helmets.
Yeah.
And so that's been one thing that I think has paid huge dividends for our defense is just those two drills in itself, and just understanding body positioning and where your help is at with your teammates and how it all fits together. If you can get that figured out, then you got to get a lot of guys to the football, and if you can do that, you're probably going to be all right.
Yeah. In today's time, Coach, because it's changed so much, how much time do you get to spend actually on tackling and just the technique of tackling? Because that's the biggest thing. Even in the NFL, you see, even the NFL and BCS, the tackling is not as crisp all the time as what you used to see.
Part of it's because the game's spread out. It used to be played in a phone booth.
Right.
And now the game's being played over 53 yards of the
That's
field.
changed
So there's a lot more trying to get guys in space. So that's another reason why the pursuit drill and that corral drill are so important, is because it gets your guys into space, and they've got to understand the angles that they're going. Now, the other part of it is we work tackling every stinking day. And it's not full live tackling,
but you still got to work technique.
You got to work the technique. So we might have defensive backs doing a back pedal drill, stop on a whistle, come through on a cone, but they've got to get their hips down. They've got to get their hands, shoot through.
Right.
And that's working a basic tackle technique on air. It doesn't even matter. So we do that a lot. We do tackle wheels. We'll tackle on bags. We'll do tackle circuits at least once a week. Right now we're doing it twice a week. But we'll tackle on Thursdays. And it's not to the ground, but it's a form tackle. It's understanding body positioning, understanding leverage, working off the back hip, all those things. But you got to be able to practice it every stinking day if you want to be a good tackling team.
I mean, because you can tell teams when they're not good. I mean, because their technique,
right?
They're not on the right course. The technique's just not very well.
Right, and that's one thing we watched after our scrimmage on Saturday. We were not a very good tackling team, so we're going to focus on tackling even more this week, and we got to get better at it. But a lot of times people think, well, you're going to work on tackling a lot, you're going to work on defense a lot. It's full live, and you're going to be knocking people to the ground. It is not that at all.
I'm talking teaching technique.
And most people wouldn't even believe me on this, but we'll have 2 full practices the entire season, the entire year.
Really?
And we just had them last Thursday was the first day kids go full pads, and then Saturday we had a scrimmage. After that, we will not be full pads again. We'll be half rack, and we're going to be as physical as anybody else on the field, and we're going to get after teams, but we're not going to be beating each other up on it. So we're going to try to stay healthy Monday through Thursday, and we're going to get after it on Friday. But
that's pretty good, because most people think the
no,
total opposite. You got to line up and knock the snot out of each
we
other.
want them hungry to hit on Friday.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
But we won't be full pads, and now they'll wear their girdles underneath their shorts.
Right, to protect
Kids don't want to wear knee pads anyway, so that's all they really don't have when we say half rack. But and we're going to get after it, and they understand that if we're going to go half rack, it can't be half ass.
No,
pardon my French.
You got a beep.
It just it can't be that, and they know that. And since we started doing that about 4 or 5 years ago, our kids have been better in practice through the course of the week. Their energy level is higher, and they just like being able to fly around, and they don't have that extra weight of a knee pad and pants on.
Well, that's
But it's
good.
less restriction,
In my
less
personal opinion, that's good
restriction,
because
yeah.
I mean, the old days they think the more you hit, the more
Oh,
physical
yeah.
you were.
Well, even when I
I
was
mean, when you were playing too,
Yeah.
that's how they thought.
yeah, well, even and when I was at Papio with Coach, so we'd be full pads on a
Oh,
Thursday.
yeah, he wasn't afraid of not.
No, well, and he had a running back take a knee to the leg on a pregame practice. Back in the early '90s, he was like, "Nope, we're going full pads on it." And I understood why. I mean, but we kind of we have the girdles on underneath, and they've got the thigh pads in there. So
That's what you want to protect
we're
mostly.
good
anyway.
to go. So our
Yeah.
kids.
If you don't go to the ground, your knees are fine.
Yeah, and we just keep them off the ground, and
Yeah.
like I said, just moving fast with the football is the key.
Okay. I got to ask you one more question. We got to do the hush here too at the end too, the wrestling thing. As a pro wrestler, right?
Absolutely.
Anyway, so now you come up your season. What are your big contests this year looking? I know every
All of
game's
them.
I know they are.
All of them.
Who do you? I knew you're going to say that. Being an ex-coach, who do you fear the most this year in your regular season?
Well, I mean, we're going to open up with SCOTUS, and I know we played them twice last year, and we won both those games. But I know they're going to be improved this year, and it's going to be a tough opener for us. I mean, they run a different type of offense with some of the wing tee stuff. Last year, they were a little more spread with the wing tee, and it's a challenge. And they're going to be well coached. Coach Linder does a great job over there. So that's going to be a tough opener for us. I mean, they're a quarterfinal team last year.
Yeah, they were.
And then we're going to get Adams Central, who's a semifinal team, in game 2. Now I'm thankful they're coming to our place and we're not having to drive all the way out there. But that's not going to be an easy one. That's going to be a tough one. Week 3 we got Boys Town. They were a playoff team last year.
They're always got speed, and they always have unknown factors you don't know
yeah,
about.
I mean, so there's nothing in that first 3-4 weeks that I'm feeling we got this.
Go have a Corona
and
beer,
we got to go to
right?
Milford, and Coach Hinks does a great job down there. So I mean, there are no real weeks off. We get into the district play. I mean, I think Plattview's on the uptick. Coach McLaughlin over there's doing some great things. They're going to be better.
Yeah, they'll be better.
We got Ashland.
That's always a big fight.
Was that week 7? So that'll be a tough one. That's never an easy game.
No.
And we've got some teams we haven't played here ever. Malcolm, we don't know much about them. We got them the last game of the year, and we got Louisville, and I'm missing somebody in there. Raymond Central's in there too. So I mean, they're all going to be tough. There's not a game where I'm saying we gotta, this is going to be the toughest game. There's not a game that I'm thinking, this is going to be an easy week. There's just, and I just hope we get to play all those games.
I do too.
And the other reality is, you hope you get 9 of those things in, because you want these seniors to have as much of a senior year as you possibly can. They put in 3 hard years of work, and now it's their turn. And if they don't get all their game, I mean, I'm going to feel for them. Last spring was tough with those seniors not getting a track season.
I know, because you're the head track coach there too. Yeah, I know.
So
That's hard.
That kind of stinks. But so I'm going to give you the politically correct question and dodge it like every coach would.
You didn't let me down with that, coach. You didn't let me down.
One game that's not going to be one that we think is
tough. I used to say the same. So one thing, do you want to give any shout out to seniors before we finish out this year? Any of your seniors?
Our senior guys.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we've got. And you're gonna put me on the spot here. I'm gonna forget somebody. I'm sure.
That's okay. I don't mean to.
But the two guys, 3 guys, 4 guys. We got 4 guys that played a lot last year. Cooper Hancock was a 2-way starter for us. Cooper played as receiver. He's probably one of our better receivers last year. He'll be our best receiver this year. But he's going to probably do a multitude of other things for us as well. He's a pretty talented kid. He also plays safety for us, and he's doing a great job back there, kind of getting everybody lined up on the defensive backside. Grant Coulterman, all-state linebacker. You won't find a better linebacker than him.
Going, Coach?
I don't know where he's going to head yet. The camp season not happening.
I know it.
Summer
Messed up a lot of kids.
didn't help him.
No.
His brother went up to Morningside, is playing up there, Sam. I don't know where Grant's going to end up, but Grant got some incredible instincts. Coach Iverson's been coaching a long, long time, and he coached for some really good teams down at Raymond Central when I think they got to the semifinals one year, and they've had some really good. I mean, he's had some good linebackers that he's coached, and he says Grant's right up there with the top of them in terms of instincts, just natural instincts and raw strength. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better linebacker in C1 than Grant, and he's going to play some fullback for us too. He didn't play much last year on offense. He played a little bit in our hammer set where we brought in a heavy lineman and went a little Maryland eye. But and then we got 2 guys in the offensive line. we got Justin Knuckles and Brody Speck, and those guys played guard and tackle for us. And those four are going to be kind of our core that we're leaning on because they have the most experience. Now Tate Nelson is a guy that's going to play quarterback for us, more than likely, and he's also going to be playing corner for us. And Tate has played a lot of years in sub-varsity because he's had some guys ahead of him. But he played a little bit at the beginning of the season before he got hurt and rotated at corner for us, so he's got some experience there. And Sebastian Loster is a kid that's worked really hard. He's going to play some in the secondary and then play some receiver for us. We got Brett Whitaker as well that's going to play some receiver and help us out in the secondary. And I know I'm going to forget somebody, and I'm going to have to, if they watch this thing, I'm going to have to hear it from them. So Zach Hamling is going to give us some depth in the line. Gage Sherman is a kid that's going to give us some help in the line as well, both offense and defensive line. And I'm just trying to think real quick. Sam Dubois is a kid that's going to play a lot of special teams, and he's going to help us give us some depth as well at linebacker in the line. So seniors, I hope I didn't forget anybody.
I hope you didn't.
I think
You
I
did a
got
nice
them
job
all.
remembering all on the spot too, Coach.
Yeah, you put me on the spot on that. I would have had my cheat sheet here if I would have.
No, I know. I should have given you time to go out and get in the car. But anyway, I appreciate your time today, Coach.
Yeah,
It was an honor. You know, it's an honor to have you on my show. It really is, because I
Thank you for
think a
having
lot. I think you're a very good coach. I think you do
I
an
appreciate that.
unbelievable job with those kids over there at Wahoo, and your program got a kind of sun and light last year at that state championship. I think is awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It was fun, and it's been a good go over there, and just feel very fortunate to be able to be a part of that program and be able to coach.
You've done an awesome job.
Thank you.
Building it up and making it into a great program in the state of Nebraska.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, you ready?
All right.
Here we go. Me and Coach Fox. And then you want food or money, and you go hush, 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 hush. Good luck to Wahoo. See you next week. Hush.